The sun sparkled off the Pinnacle Hotel's glass exterior, its sleek, modern style towering among the older, classic buildings around it. Maya Holloway, a black woman in her late 30s, stepped out of her luxury car. Her tailored suit was as sharp as her business skills, and her presence demanded respect. She'd built her real estate company from scratch, turning it into a billion-dollar business. Today was supposed to be a day to savor her success. But the second her heels touched the sidewalk in front of the hotel, a familiar tension settled over her. Her assistant, Alicia Carter, followed with their bags. Alicia was sharp, detail-oriented, and had double-checked the hotel reservation weeks in advance. Still, Maya felt a gnawing unease. The Pinnacle was known for serving the elite, and Maya certainly fit the bill. But there was always a question. Would they see her achievements or only her skin color? "Everything's set, right?" Maya asked, glancing at Alicia as they approached the entrance. "Absolutely," Alicia replied with confidence. "You're their VIP guest for the week." Maya smiled, grateful for Alicia's thoroughness. Alicia wasn't just an assistant. She was family. They'd been through it all, from the days when they couldn't afford an office to now, with Maya at the top of a huge real estate empire. But Maya had learned to expect obstacles in places that weren't used to welcoming people like her. As they stepped into the grand lobby, the luxury was undeniable. High ceilings, chandeliers, soft classical music. But the look she got felt far from welcoming. "Good afternoon." The receptionist greeted them politely, though her eyes showed a flicker of discomfort. "How can I help you?" "We have a reservation under Holloway," Maya said. The receptionist hesitated, her fingers moving over the keyboard a bit too slowly. "One moment, please," she muttered, glancing up at Maya every so often. After a pause, she frowned and stiffened. "I'm not seeing a reservation under that name." Maya felt a familiar disappointment, though she stayed calm. She'd been through this kind of situation before. The mix-ups, the delays, the sudden issues. "I confirmed the reservation myself," Alicia said, her voice professional but firm. "Please check again." The receptionist shifted uncomfortably, picking up the phone to whisper to her manager. A tall, silver-haired man in a perfect suit approached. "Good afternoon," he said. "I'm Robert Finch, the hotel manager. I understand there's an issue with your reservation." Maya locked eyes with him. She could sense what was coming before he said it. He was all polite smiles, but his words were frosty. "It seems there's been a misunderstanding," he said. "Unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate you today. All our suites are booked." Alicia's eyes widened. "That's impossible. We confirmed this weeks ago." Maya raised a hand to stop her. She didn't need to hear the excuses. She'd been through this too many times. The issue wasn't overbooking. It was about who she was, how she looked. Maya gave a polite, chilly smile. "I see," she said calmly. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Finch. We'll make other arrangements." Finch looked surprised, maybe expecting her to argue. But Maya turned on her heel and walked out, head high. Alicia hurried to catch up, visibly upset. "This is outrageous, Maya. We can't just let them get away with this. We should call a lawyer or go to the press." Maya stopped and took a deep breath. "Alicia, I've dealt with this my whole life. You think this is the first time I've been denied something because of my skin color?" Alicia's frustration softened to sadness. "But you shouldn't have to keep dealing with this. You're Maya Holloway. You've earned everything." Maya sighed. "I know. That's why I won't fight them on their terms. They want a reaction, a scene. I'm not giving them that." "So what now?" Alicia asked, still upset. Maya's eyes glinted with determination. "Now we regroup. We'll find another hotel for tonight. And then I have other plans for the Pinnacle." That evening, Maya settled into a smaller, less flashy hotel. She could still feel the sting of the Pinnacle's rejection, but as she looked out over the city, a plan started to take shape in her mind. She'd spent her life proving she belonged in spaces others tried to keep her out of. This wouldn't be any different. If the Pinnacle wouldn't welcome her as a guest, maybe she'd come back as something else entirely. Maya smiled, a spark lighting in her eyes. Let's see how they feel when she's the one signing their paychecks. The plan unfolds. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains of Maya's modest hotel room. She was up early, focused and ready. Instead of letting yesterday's insult hold her back, she was using it to fuel her determination. With coffee in hand, she sat at her laptop, studying a spreadsheet with the Pinnacle's assets and ownership structure. She was no stranger to corporate takeovers, and this one would be personal. The Pinnacle was owned by a private investment group, proud of catering to the elite. But beneath the fancy exterior, the hotel was struggling financially. Maya had already been eyeing luxury properties for her portfolio, and the Pinnacle was on her radar even before yesterday's events. Now, what began as a business opportunity had turned into something more personal. Alicia entered, looking a bit tired but curious. Up early. Huh, she said, noticing the documents spread out. Are you really going through with this? Maya didn't look up. I am. The Pinnacle needs a new direction, and I'm going to give it to them. Alicia smirked. So you're just going to swoop in and buy it out from under them? Not exactly, Maya replied, meeting her assistant's eyes. The hotel's owned by investors, but they've been barely staying afloat for years. They may look fine on the outside, but they're on shaky ground. So, you're going to take over while they're down? Alicia asked, her smirk widening. Maya nodded. Exactly. Maya already had all the resources she needed. Now it was just about the plan. Alicia leaned on the desk, her frustration from the day before now turning into admiration. You always have a plan, don't you? She asked, shaking her head with a smile. Maya gave a small smile back. I didn't get here by accident. I don't know how you do it. After yesterday, I would have wanted to burn that place to the ground, Alicia said with a chuckle. That's why I'm me, Maya said, calm but firm. I learned long ago that getting angry doesn't change anything. But owning the hotel that refused me? That changes everything. Alicia's eyes lit up. So, what's the next step? Maya pulled up the hotel's list of investors on her laptop. The group that owns the Pinnacle has several partners. Most of them just invest, but a few make the decisions. I'm going to make them an offer they won't refuse. Alicia raised an eyebrow. And if they do? They won't, Maya said confidently. Their finances aren't as solid as they seem. A few bad quarters, and they'll be forced to sell, but I'm not waiting for that. I'll give them a generous price now, more than anyone else would pay, and they'll take it. Alicia nodded, beginning to understand the full scale of Maya's plan. This is huge. Maya nodded. It is. The Pinnacle stands for everything I've had to fight my whole life. Exclusion, prejudice, elitism. I've worked too hard to be kept out of places like that. Alicia looked at her thoughtfully. Do you think they'll realize who you are? The person they turned away? Oh, they'll know. But by then, it'll be too late. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, negotiations, and keeping her identity under wraps. Maya worked through intermediaries, making quiet moves and gathering intel. Her legal team drafted the contracts with painstaking attention to detail, making sure that once the Pinnacle was hers, she'd have complete control over everything. While Maya handled the takeover, Alicia managed her other business interests, keeping everything running smoothly. Every night, they'd meet to catch up on progress. They're interested, Maya reported one evening. The investors are feeling uneasy. Good, Alicia replied, a glint in her eye. I can't wait to see that manager's reaction when he finds out. Maya smiled slightly. He'll find out soon enough. 2 weeks later, the final meeting took place. Maya sat at a long table with her legal team across from the Pinnacle's investors. None of them recognized her. They knew her reputation, but not her face, and that was just how she'd planned it. Simon Kane, the lead investor, cleared his throat. Ms. Holloway, your offer is more than generous. I think we're ready to move forward. Maya nodded, her face neutral. Glad to hear it. Kane hesitated. I have to ask, though, why the Pinnacle? Many buyers have shown interest over the years but never offered like this. Maya's gaze was steady. The Pinnacle has personal significance to me. The investors exchanged puzzled looks, but no one pressed further. They didn't know Maya was the woman who had been turned away just weeks before. Once all the signatures were on the papers, Maya stood up and shook hands with Mr. Kane. Thank you. I'm looking forward to leading the Pinnacle into a new era. That evening, as Maya sat in her new office at the Pinnacle, she allowed herself a moment to reflect. She'd spent her career breaking barriers and proving her worth. But this victory felt different. It was personal. The next morning, Maya returned to the hotel. She wasn't an unwelcome guest anymore. She was the owner. As she walked in, the same receptionist from before was behind the desk. Her face turned pale when she recognized Maya. "Good morning. Welcome to the Pinnacle," the receptionist said, her voice shaky. Maya approached calmly. "I'm not here for a reservation," she said with a slight smile. "I'm the new owner." The receptionist's face went blank with shock. She stammered, "I didn't know." "That's fine," Maya replied, "but I'd suggest getting ready for some changes." Without waiting for a response, Maya turned and headed toward the elevators with Alicia beside her. "Did you see her face?" Alicia laughed. "I think she's in shock." Maya smirked. "She's just one part of this. Now the real work begins." Over the next few weeks, Maya dove into her plans to overhaul the hotel. She called a meeting with the management team, including Robert Finch, the same manager who had denied her reservation. They still didn't know who she was. When Maya entered the room, she didn't need to say a word to command attention. Her presence did all the talking. Sitting at the head of the table, she looked around, meeting each person's gaze. There were nervous glances and whispers, but no one spoke up. They were waiting for her. "Good morning, everyone," Maya said, her voice calm but steady. "As of today, the Pinnacle is under new ownership. I'm Maya Holloway, and I'll be managing operations here moving forward." A quiet murmur went through the room. Some staff looked curious, others anxious. Finch, one of the senior managers, stared at Maya, a hint of recognition flickering in his eyes. He shifted uncomfortably, realizing who she was. "I've reviewed the current policies and practices here," Maya continued. "Let me be clear. Big changes are coming." She paused, meeting the eyes of each person in the room. "The Pinnacle has always been a place of luxury, but it will no longer be a place of discrimination. From now on, we're committed to making this a welcoming place for all guests and staff, regardless of race, gender, or background." Finch opened his mouth as if to object, but Maya silenced him with a calm, unyielding look. "I expect everyone here to uphold these values of respect and inclusivity," she said. "There'll be new training sessions, new policies, and a new vision for this hotel. No exceptions." Silence filled the room. A few staff members exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Finch cleared his throat. "Ms. Holloway, with all due respect, the Pinnacle has always prided itself on exclusivity. Our clientele." "Exclusivity is one thing," Maya interrupted smoothly. "Discrimination is another. If you're worried about welcoming a broader group of guests, then maybe this isn't the right place for you." Finch's face flushed, but he stayed silent. The rest of the management team sat quietly, unsure of how to react to the shift in leadership. They'd spent years catering to a narrow idea of luxury, and now that idea was changing. In the weeks that followed, Maya's influence spread through every corner of the Pinnacle. She hired diversity and inclusion experts to retrain the staff, creating an environment where all guests were welcomed with the same level of respect. She also promoted people of color to leadership roles, breaking the unspoken rule that only a certain type of person could manage a luxury hotel. Word about the changes at the Pinnacle spread quickly. At first, some longtime patrons were skeptical. They wondered if the hotel's reputation would suffer. But soon, as Maya's vision took shape, it became clear that the Pinnacle wasn't losing its prestige. It was gaining something even more valuable. The hotel's lobby began to fill with guests of all backgrounds, all enjoying the same luxury experience that had once been reserved for only a few. From her office, Maya watched families, couples, and business travelers walking through the doors, each greeted warmly. This wasn't just about proving a point. It was about creating a place where everyone felt they belonged. The Pinnacle was no longer a symbol of exclusion. It had become a beacon of progress. One afternoon, as Maya reviewed reports, Alicia burst into her office, grinning. "You have to see this," she said, handing Maya her phone. Maya looked at the screen, where an article headline read, "Billionaire Maya Holloway transforms historic hotel into a beacon of inclusivity. The Pinnacle's new era." The article praised her for making the hotel inclusive without sacrificing its luxury status. She handed the phone back, smiling. "Nice to see the press catching up." Alicia laughed. "You did it, Maya. You turned this place around." Maya looked out the window at the city she loved. "We did it," she corrected. "And this is just the beginning." With the Pinnacle now under her leadership, Maya wasn't just creating a luxury hotel. She was creating a model for the future. She partnered with local organizations to train underrepresented youth in hospitality, opening doors for those who had traditionally been excluded from the industry. Her goal was to make sure the Pinnacle was more than just a hotel. It was a place of learning, growth, and opportunity. "You're making this place into something incredible," Alicia said one day, leaning against Maya's desk. "That's the goal," Maya replied. "But symbols only matter if they inspire real change. I don't just want the Pinnacle to feel welcoming. I want it to be a place where people can grow, learn, and thrive. And it already is," Alicia said, admiration in her eyes. "Just look at what we've done." Maya nodded. She knew there was more work to be done to ensure that the changes lasted. Every success was a step towards something bigger, and she was determined to keep pushing forward. Later that week, Maya hosted a celebration in one of the hotel's grand ballrooms. Community leaders, activists, business owners, and media representatives filled the room. For the first time, the Pinnacle's halls were filled with people of all backgrounds, a sight that would have been unthinkable in the hotel's past. As Maya stood at the front, preparing to give her speech, she looked at the diverse crowd before her. The energy in the room was electric. People were eager to see what the future held for the Pinnacle under Maya Holloway's leadership. And as she began to speak, she knew this was only the beginning. Maya cleared her throat and began with a warm smile. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight." The room quieted, and Maya's voice filled the space. "This is a special moment for me, and for the Pinnacle. For years, this hotel has been a symbol of exclusivity, a place only a select few could access." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "But tonight marks a new chapter. When I took over the Pinnacle, I knew I wasn't just buying a hotel. I was inheriting a legacy that needed to change. This place should be open to everyone, where anyone, no matter who they are or where they're from, can experience the same level of luxury and respect." Heads nodded in agreement as Maya continued, her voice steady. "Change doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, vision, and, most importantly, action. That's why tonight, I'm proud to launch the Pinnacle's Community Inclusion Initiative. Through this program, we'll partner with local groups to provide training, internships, and real career opportunities for people who may have been overlooked in our industry. We're not just opening our doors, we're building bridges." Applause erupted, and Maya felt the energy in the room shift. She had always believed that real change came from empowering others, and tonight, she was putting that belief into action. "Our goal is simple: to make the Pinnacle a place of luxury and opportunity, a place where anyone can build a career, a future, and a life." As applause swelled around her, Maya felt a surge of pride. This wasn't just about owning a hotel. It was about creating a legacy rooted in inclusivity, empowerment, and progress. Over the weeks that followed, the Pinnacle's Community Inclusion Initiative took off. Applications poured in, and Maya's team worked with local schools and community organizations to find candidates who had potential but had been overlooked by traditional hiring. Maya took a personal role, mentoring interns eager to learn the industry's ins and outs. One intern in particular, Devin, stood out, a young man who'd grown up in a tough neighborhood, put himself through college, and dreamed of working in hotel management. Maya was struck by his determination. During one of their meetings, she told him, "You remind me of myself when I was starting out. Talent is there. Now we just need to open the right doors for you." Devin's face lit up with gratitude. "I can't thank you enough, Ms. Holloway. No one's ever given me a chance like this before." "You earned it," she said with a smile. "Now make the most of it. And remember, you're not alone. I'm here to help guide you every step of the way." Months went by, and the Pinnacle's transformation became the talk of the industry. Other luxury hotels took note, some even reaching out to Maya for advice on how to launch similar programs. The hotel's guest list continued to grow, drawing high-profile clients and travelers alike who were inspired by the Pinnacle's message of inclusivity and empowerment. But as Maya settled into her role as the owner, she realized her work wasn't done. One day, she received a call from her assistant, Alicia. "Maya, I found something you should see," Alicia said, sounding serious. All right, Maya replied. Moments later, an email pinged on her computer. As she opened the file, her chest tightened. The hotel's history was darker than she'd imagined. The Pinnacle, once a symbol of luxury, had also upheld strict segregation policies. For decades, black guests were refused entry, and high society gatherings reinforced discriminatory practices. Maya felt a cold knot in her stomach as she read, the weight of the past settling over her. Alicia walked in, looking concerned. I take it you read the file? Maya nodded slowly. I had no idea it was this bad. So, what do you want to do about it? Alicia asked. Maya took a deep breath, her mind racing. She knew she couldn't ignore this part of the hotel story. If the Pinnacle was truly going to stand for change, she had to address its history openly. We're going public with this, Maya said firmly. I'm thinking of hosting a symposium where we face the hotel's past head-on and discuss how we're moving forward. Alicia's face softened, admiration clear in her eyes. You really don't back down from anything, do you? Maya smiled. I've had a fight to get here. I'm not going to stop now. If we're building a new legacy, we have to reckon with the old one first. In the days that followed, Maya began planning the Pinnacle Legacy Symposium, an event to openly confront the hotel's history and celebrate the progress it was making. She invited historians, activists, and community leaders to speak on panels discussing segregation in the hospitality industry and its impact today. Young voices like Devin's were also part of the event, representing the change Maya hoped to inspire. The announcement caused a stir in the city and beyond. Some praised Maya for taking on the hotel's past so openly, while others felt she was stirring up old wounds. Maya expected the mixed reactions. Change is tough, and there would always be those who resist. But she knew this was the right path. The day of the symposium came, and the Pinnacle's grand ballroom was packed. The crowd was a mix of hotel patrons, community leaders, activists, historians, and journalists. The energy was electric. Maya stepped up to the podium, gazing out at the diverse faces before her. For a moment, she felt the weight of the history she was about to address. Here she was standing in a place that once symbolized exclusion, speaking to a room full of people from every walk of life. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here with us tonight, she began. We're here to have a long overdue conversation. The room grew silent. For too long, the Pinnacle was a place that prided itself on keeping certain people out. This hotel didn't just practice discrimination, it enforced it. There were murmurs of agreement throughout the crowd. When I took over the Pinnacle, I knew I was inheriting more than a business. I was inheriting a legacy, Maya continued. And I promised myself I wouldn't shy away from the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. She paused, letting her words settle in. Tonight, we're facing that truth together. We'll acknowledge the painful history of this hotel and talk about how we're moving forward. The changes we've made at the Pinnacle aren't just about luxury. They're about justice, inclusion, and progress. A deep silence fell over the room as Maya spoke, the impact of her words clear on the faces of her audience. We can't change the past, she said, but we can learn from it. And we can build a future where everyone has a seat at the table. That's why we're here tonight. The room erupted into applause. Maya stepped down, feeling the crowd's support like a wave. This was bigger than her, bigger than the hotel. The Pinnacle was becoming a symbol of change, not just for the hospitality industry, but for society. The symposium was a hit. Panels ranged from discussing segregation in hotels to the importance of diversity in leadership. Guests shared their own stories of exclusion, reflecting on how it had shaped their lives. Devin, one of Maya's protégés, took part in a panel, sharing his journey from a low-income neighborhood to working at the Pinnacle under her guidance. I never thought I'd get a shot like this, Devin said. People like me don't usually get to work in places like the Pinnacle, but Maya saw something in me. She gave me a chance, and now I'm here because someone believed in me. The audience gave him a standing ovation, and Maya felt a swell of pride as she watched Devin, standing tall and confident. This was her dream for the Pinnacle, a place where people could rise, not be held back. After the symposium, Maya walked through the ballroom, receiving congratulations and thanks from attendees. Alicia, her assistant, found her near the entrance, beaming with pride. "That was incredible, Maya," Alicia said. "You've really turned this place around." Maya smiled, though a hint of thoughtfulness crept into her eyes. "We've come a long way, but there's more work to be done." Alicia chuckled. "Of course there is, but take a minute to celebrate this win. You've earned it." Maya nodded, taking in the moment. The Pinnacle had once been everything she fought against: exclusion, discrimination, prejudice. Now, it was becoming a beacon of hope, a place where everyone belonged. But she knew the fight wasn't over. There would always be new challenges, and she was ready. For Maya Holloway, every step forward was a victory, and she was just getting started. Legacy in the making. Months passed since the Pinnacle Legacy Symposium, and Maya's transformation of the hotel had grown into something even she hadn't anticipated. The Pinnacle wasn't just a luxury hotel anymore. It had become a symbol of progress, a place where inclusivity and opportunity were as much a part of its identity as its five-star service. Guests came from around the world, drawn not only by the hotel's opulence, but by what it stood for: a new vision for hospitality. But as the buzz around the Pinnacle settled, Maya felt a deeper mission forming. She wanted to build a legacy that would last beyond her time as owner, a legacy that would extend far beyond this one hotel. One afternoon, as she sat in her office reviewing plans, there was a knock on her door. Devin stepped in, looking excited but a little nervous. Since the symposium, he had quickly moved up the ranks, proving himself to be a talented and passionate leader. "Maya," he started, hesitating a bit, "I know you're busy, but I wanted to share an idea." Maya smiled. "Of course, Devin. You've earned a seat at this table. What's on your mind?" He took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about everything we've done here. The changes we've made, the opportunities we've opened up for people who'd never have had a shot before. It's amazing, but I feel like we could do even more." Maya leaned in, intrigued. "I'm listening." His face brightened, and his nervousness faded. "What if we took what we've done at the Pinnacle and brought it to other hotels? Not just here, but across the country, maybe even internationally. We could create a network of hotels that share our values. Places that don't just talk about diversity, but make it central to everything they do." Maya's eyes sparkled with pride. Devin had always had potential, and now he was pushing beyond it. "That's a big idea, Devin, but I love it. We'd be up against old traditions and entrenched mindsets." He nodded, undeterred. "I know, but if anyone can do it, it's us. We've already shown that change is possible." Maya took a moment to let his words sink in. Devin was right. What they'd built at the Pinnacle was just the beginning. There were still so many places out there where the same invisible walls held strong, where exclusion was quietly baked into the system. But Maya and Devin knew that if they could bring the changes they had made here to other hotels, resorts, and destinations, they could start a movement that would redefine luxury for everyone. Maya looked at Devin, a spark in her eyes. "We can't stop here. If we really want lasting change, we have to take this even further." Devin's face lit up with determination. "So, what's our next step?" Maya walked to the large windows, watching the city glow in the setting sun. She'd come so far, from being turned away at this very hotel, to owning it, transforming it, and now planning something even bigger. "We start by building a team," she said, turning back to face Devin. "We'll need experts in hospitality, community engagement, finance, and law. People who are as fired up about this mission as we are. Once we have the right team, we'll look for hotels that share our vision." She continued, "We're talking about places that are struggling, underperforming, or stuck in the past." Devin nodded, taking mental notes. "So we offer them a chance to be part of something bigger," Maya added, warming to her idea. "We'll invest in them, transform them just like we did with the Pinnacle, and in return, they'll follow our values, welcoming everyone, embracing diversity, and building community. We're creating a new kind of hotel chain, one that redefines luxury for the 21st century." As Maya spoke, the vision became clearer in her mind. This was more than hospitality. It was about creating places where everyone felt welcome, where no one was judged by the color of their skin, where they came from, or how much money they had. It was about changing an industry that had for too long been defined by who it kept out. Devin stood up, barely containing his excitement. I'll start reaching out to potential team members. This is going to be huge, Maya. I can feel it. Maya smiled, feeling the energy spread between them. I know it will be. We're not just building a business, Devin. We're building a legacy, building the dream. The next few months were a whirlwind. Maya and Devin worked nonstop to bring their vision to life. They pulled together a passionate team, people who believed in their mission as deeply as they did. Each person was more than an expert in their field. They were people who had faced barriers themselves, who understood exclusion, and who were committed to creating spaces of opportunity for others. With the team in place, they began scouting properties that fit their vision. These were hotels with potential, but ones that had been stuck in outdated models or exclusionary practices. One by one, Maya and her team approached them, offering a partnership that would not only boost their business, but also transform their culture. Maya personally oversaw each negotiation, making sure each hotel they welcomed into their network embraced the values she laid out. Slowly but surely, their network of hotels began to grow. The Pinnacle was no longer a one-off. It was just the beginning. A year later, 1 year later, Maya stood at the grand opening of a new property, a luxury resort on the Caribbean coast that had joined their network. The resort, once known for its exclusivity and members-only policies, had undergone a complete transformation. Now, it was a thriving destination where people from all walks of life could experience the Caribbean's beauty and luxury without any fear of being judged or excluded. As she strolled through the resort's lush gardens, Maya thought about how far they'd come. From that first time she'd been turned away at the Pinnacle's front desk to now leading a growing network of inclusive luxury properties. It felt like a dream. But Maya was already thinking ahead. There were more hotels to transform, more lives to impact, and more barriers to break down. Later that evening, as the sun dipped over the ocean, Devin joined Maya on the terrace. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in. I never imagined we'd come this far, Devin said quietly. It's incredible, Maya. Maya smiled, her eyes fixed on the horizon. We're just getting started, Devin. There's so much more to do. Devin chuckled. You never stop, do you? Maya shook her head. I can't. Every time I think we've done enough, I remember there's always someone out there who still needs a door open for them. We've built something amazing, but we have to make sure it lasts. We're not just building hotels, Devin. We're building a movement. Devin nodded, fully understanding her vision. And we'll keep going. Together. Maya looked over at him, her eyes shining with pride. Together. As the last rays of sunlight faded, Maya felt a deep sense of peace. She had built something that would live on, a legacy that would open doors and welcome people for generations to come.